We have a very special guest here today. And before I introduce her, I want to tell you a story. The story goes back to last year's summer. My wife had planned a trip to Alaska. It was a cruise, 10-day cruise, followed by 5-day stay in Canada. I was all jazzed up. My family was all jazzed up. And just 1 week before the vacation was to begin, my daughters create a stink. They love to go on vacation, they love cruises, and still they said, we won't go on the cruise. Why? Because they wanted to go to a Justin Bieber concert 2 days before we were to depart, and that concert was sold out. And they wanted me to find a solution to that and let them go to the Justin Bieber concert so that they could shriek, they could enjoy with their friends. Poor man and dilemma of a parent. What do? I'll ask around, where do I get these tickets for the sold out concert? Thankfully, I found StubHub. And that was my introduction to StubHub. So last week, when I was told that our keynote is coming from StubHub, I said, great, I'll tell the story. So today, I have my distinct pleasure of introducing your next speaker. Our speaker is Raji Arasu, sorry for mispronouncing your name. As StubHub's Chief Technology Officer, Raji leads all product and engineering functions. She has an engineering background, computer science, and she brings more than 23 years of experience in software development, specializing in online commerce and payments business. She joined eBay in 2001, led numerous technology innovations that are now foundational to eBay's business, including building out of a fixed price format in 2001, and so on and so forth. I could be here till the evening reading her bio. But the most important part is she is a female executive who mentors other females in the STEM area, in the engineering area, and she has been recognized by Business Journal of Silicon Valley as Women of Influence in 2011. She is a fan of San Francisco 49ers, enjoys running, skiing, and traveling. And one fun fact about her is that she took a sabbatical last year and went and taught in a monastery with her son. So with that, and before she comes on the stage, I want you to play the video.
Yellow.
Hey, Ticket Oak. You got any tickets for tonight's show?
I might have a few.
Awesome. Stay there, okay?
Well, I was gonna go horseback riding.
Not everyone has a Ticket Oak, but everyone can use StubHub, the way ticket buying should be.
Thank you, Piyush, for that wonderful story. I don't think I could have done a better job at introducing our business, so thank you for doing that. I'm really honored to be here and speaking at TiEcon. For me, I wanted to take a little minute and really introduce StubHub. StubHub is, yes, it's great that, the summary would have been building a tree. When you shake the tree, there are tickets that fall off, right? That could be my job. But I can tell you, I wish it was that easy, because a lot of what I do is really support about 25 million active users who come to us every single day. There are about multiple tickets that we sell every second, and dealing with mobile traffic that is going double digits every day. So this is what I deal with, and it's truly exciting. But I wanted to talk a little bit. I come from eBay, where I spent about almost a decade. I spent 10 years of my life working as a technology executive at eBay. And it would be unfair if I don't touch upon some fantastic stories that we have at eBay to share. At eBay, one of the things we did is we never really talked about any data that is less than petabytes. And some of those numbers were astounding in terms of how much data was out there and how much we collected on a daily basis. And I read somewhere that it takes, within 1.2 years, the data in a company actually doubles. So my head hurts just thinking about what that number would look like at eBay. But there are several initiatives around data that we were working on that actually makes the customer experience come alive. But one that's worth calling out here is eBay Search, or Cassini, if you guys Google it, is a fantastic project that actually uses the power of Hadoop and HBase and big data to really index everything on eBay. Like in terms of, you're talking about volumes of 600 million listings a day, a ton of demand data that comes through, a ton of keywords and other metadata, and history behind some of these listings. All of that indexed within sub 90 seconds using this technology. And that is the power of what was built there when I was just about to get started on my job at StubHub. And this sounds like a fantastic, and what you see here is actually 3,000 of those servers. It takes about 10,000 servers to actually run that, and it's run through our data center in multiple locations, many of which is built by eBay. For me, this is actually a much more cooler application. When I see the power of eBay and power of data and how we are changing customer experience, then one application that comes to mind for me is the eBay Fashion app. Like many people, I love shopping, but I don't get enough time. But what this does for me is I can actually take a quick picture of a pattern, a color, a texture, or a purse, and I can actually do a quick search against the 600 million listings that I just talked about, and out comes something that matches the color or the pattern or the texture. And that's pretty cool. Like when I look at what goes behind that, it is amazing for me to realize that image is a big part of eBay's data, and image is unstructured data. So when you think about image analytics, extracting that data, assimilating that data, and interpreting that data on the fly is a magic that happens behind this. But from a consumer perspective, it really changes how I interact with shopping. So these are a few applications at the eBay scale. Now fast forward, I'm at StubHub. I joined StubHub about 2.5 years ago, and it's an eBay company. It's part of it, but it's very much run while we have our own technology stack. We are a separate organization. And for me, there were a lot of learnings coming from the size of eBay to really starting and kicking off big data initiative at a smaller place. There was a lot of learning in that process. And I'm here actually to share that because I hope there are some lessons for everyone to take away. StubHub was about selling tickets. It was about moving tickets from the sellers to the buyers, and it's a marketplace. It's the world's largest marketplace, primarily pretty big presence in the US. We have about 10 million active listings a day, and if you look at that and compare it to the size of what I just mentioned at eBay, it's pretty small still. We enable access to events. So what just Piyush mentioned was why we exist, because you can find that last-minute ticket and you can actually go to any concert that you want to go to. It is a breadth of the supply that we have which makes us powerful. But where we want to be is something different. So when I came to StubHub, it was about actually looking at the ecosystem of event-going experience and trying to understand how big data can change that experience. And when we started to look at that, there were a lot of things we could do in this space to improve user experience with big data. And the list is long, but I've picked about 4 or 5 use cases that we argued for a long time which ones to go at. And these are the ones that you see up here. There's personalization. There's event recommendation, which is a sub-bullet under personalization, but it's still pretty big and hard to do in the event space. And there's fraud analytics, really important, again, because of the fact that we are digital goods in a big way. Pricing analytics. It is all about when you're in a marketplace, it's about making sure that you can tell the seller what is the right price to set the inventory at. So all of that, and in a big way, I want to walk you through each of these concepts because we spent a ton of time talking about which ones to go tackle in this space. And if you look at personalization, a lot of people are trying to figure this out. I think there were multiple speakers today through the day who talked about that. And it's not easy. It's not a feature, it's not an initiative that you can go get done. There are multiple pieces of the company that actually have to participate in actually personalizing the user's experience. There's data, there's getting the right data, tracking the right data. There is experimentation, analytics capabilities that you need to build. There are insights, and as you see here, recommendation just a piece of that. And there's marketing capabilities, whether it is actually doing campaigns and being able to actually run the right campaigns and target the right users. And then you have something that actually sits on top of it, but really both gathers data and publishes data as well. And if you look at that, it's about understanding the users and how they use you as a service across multiple devices. It's being able to actually connect their experiences together across these devices, understand them, understand when they come to your site. One of the key things is right messaging at the right time. If you sent me a pre-sale for a ticket in the middle of the day, most likely I'm not going to process it. But if you send me something in the evening when I'm a little bit more relaxed and I can actually go do something about it, those are the things that matter, right? And I might be very different than some of you. So, understanding the user, when to message, when to target, and how to target across multiple devices is absolutely important as part of this. And big data plays a huge role. The second piece, I want to play out just the event recommendation piece of personalization because it's so key to where we play today. And it's a particular ecosystem that's actually, a lot of small players are growing in this space. And it's really, really important to us. The red button, you, is really you. Imagine with me, that's you. And think about the ways you think about going to an event. Sometimes it's about your preferences, Justin Bieber. It's about what you like. It's the artists that you listen to. It's the teams that you root for. So all of that stuff actually plays into it. Sometimes it's when you're traveling, when you're going to a different location, might not be the same thing, but you want something fun to do and you want to go to attend an event. And now I need to know that context. I need to know that you have moved from one geo to the other, and maybe you might like something different in this area. If I'm a 49er fan and I'm probably traveling and 49er game isn't necessarily playing in the place, let's say I'm going to New York, I need to figure out something else that probably appeals to you at that point. It might be about what your friends like. Even going is actually a very social experience. Many people do hang out together. It's actually one of the it's one where you seek out company and where you go together with friends or go together with family. So you care about what your friends say. And by the way, this data is absolutely sparse. This is social data. People talk about social data. It's the more sparse data that you have, and you need to make sense out of this. There's some moods. Let me talk a little bit about that. How many of you guys actually use Spotify? A few. But if you look at moods, it's an interesting one. I think Spotify's songs, a few of these guys actually play with it. What I feel today might be very different than what I feel in the evening or what I feel in the morning, tomorrow morning. So I might feel like going to a Giants game tonight. I might not feel the same tomorrow morning. I might want to go to a local band and watch something else. Or I might just want to not do anything tomorrow morning. How do I anticipate your moods at that particular point in time? And that is a key element to event going. It's very different than me being able to recommend another shirt or another movie when you're watching Netflix. It's very, very different from that. And the other part, which is it's a key element of consideration if you're a fan, is I don't want to sit next to the Seahawks fans if I'm going to go watch a 49er and Seahawks game. I will tell you that. It is not easy sitting in front of, sitting with the wrong fan or wrong seat along with the wrong fans. How do I know that? And how do I make sure that you're buying tickets? And how do I tell you that information? So event and ticket information, ticket recommendations sort of go hand to hand, with each other. And I think that's an important piece of, I'm painting a picture of the possibilities of what big data can drive here. And this was really, really interesting for us. The third one is pricing analytics. In any marketplace, our sellers come to us, and every seller I talk to asks me the same question. Can you tell me how I should price? tell me how we can price this ticket. There's a lot that goes on in our ecosystem. I'll tell you there's demand, of course, in general, like, what's the demand for that game or the concert. There's the team mix, believe it or not, that plays in a big way, which teams actually make it to the playoff. What's the concerts that are happening this summer? Those play a big role in how, how you price your tickets. Weather. For the past 4 months, most of East Coast was white. And that usually does impact us in terms of how the tickets move. It is an important consideration. Social media. A lot of the stuff that's been happening around NBA, without actually saying it specifically, all of this stuff around the news that you get out about your players, about the teams, about your artist, all of the stuff that happens in social media moves so quickly that some of that could actually impact demand. And you need to be able to get that signal early on and be able to incorporate that in your price analytics. So that's a science that we need to figure out. The last one was fraud analytics. When we started to look at that, again, a lot of our tickets are moving towards digital. As you look at it, there is an inherent risk in being able to actually move tickets so quickly. And when a buyer comes for maybe 1 or 2 times a year to buy these tickets, it's really, really important to understand how fast verify them online and actually make the tickets available to them. And we have started to look at this more closely because this is probably the first time we had a use case where you take big data and you just don't aggregate and analyze that offline. You're actually using that data to train models and run them real time, which is a fantastic use case because the speed is required here to be able to actually preempt fraud. And this is a place we were able to track a lot more attributes, device IDs and other attributes, and be able to actually train models, both linear and non-linear, and really try to do this real time so we can get customer profiles and other data processed so we can actually cache that. This was, believe it or not, overwhelming 6 months ago for us when we looked at this. This is hard. This felt hard. But the learning that I've had is really to create focus. When I looked at the whole sort of flywheel of things we could do, it was really overwhelming. And when you're a part of a company like StubHub, we're still small, and we're not at the size of eBay. And you have limited resources, you have limited time sometimes to be able to actually react to competition or be able to actually provide business value. And in that use case, you've got to be focused. And one of the things we did is we just had these hard discussions on what are the use cases we will go focus on. Since we were just starting with big data, it was really our path forward. We were trying to build up pipes, we're trying to get the data, and trying to actually provide quick business value. And I felt that coming from a product development background and using sort of the same approach here really helped. It's take the quick wins, show immediate business value, and keep going. And that's how you sort of build trust, as well as you build confidence in what you're going to go execute. And that's the path we chose. And really, really, really good results here. Some of the things we saw with fraud analytics, just by deploying our nonlinear models, which we have trained offline, and trained with our big data, we saw some amazing numbers here. We were able to preempt about double-digit numbers. We were able to actually get ahead of that and prevent that from happening, which is actually a huge, huge gain for a customer. Fraud is not fun when it happens either on the buyer side or the seller side. So being able to preempt that and prevent that was a huge gain for us. The second one was really, again, our fraud operations team. They can now scale up to actually the growing demand and the growing, especially in the peak season, be able to scale that. That was something that we constantly worried about in the previous use case. And I felt like this was an immediate quick win, immediate thing we were able to get out there and actually make a huge difference. Event recommendation. We're barely getting started here. There's a lot that you saw me paint in the previous slide. The things that can go into making recommendation really relevant for you. But we said, let's take what we got. One of the things we had was purchase history. We had a lot of transactions that were happening on our ticket marketplace. We had a lot of data. We had a lot of signals already that we were collecting. Yes, there's a lot of data that people give about their taste graphs and their preferences outside. I don't know how many people use Pandora's and the Last FMs, but there's a lot happening outside. But we were able to focus and say, let's get started with what we have, and then we're going to start incorporating some of that stuff. And just with that change alone, we saw a 20% increase in click-throughs from that events that were recommended for the person. It was an immediate win in terms of actually conversion. So that was really, really powerful. We're not done yet. I mean, this is a 6-month journey. About 6 months back, we were sitting with a group of people and saying, how do we go about this? And I'll tell you that it took us about 3 months to go create the infrastructure, build some of the foundational pieces, and another 3 months to actually start processing the data and analyzing and training our models. But I feel like now we are at a point where we can actually tackle things like personalization. So some of the things I talked about, this is going to be a little bit longer, but it feels like achievable right now. And this is going to require a little bit of a different science. A few of our people, by the way, eBay and StubHub in the same boat around personalization, it's not about just processing big data offline and using those insights and being able to actually inform some of the use cases on the site. It's actually doing that in real time. And that's what's going to take, because it's about analyzing, training models, validating, and experimenting real time. And that's what's going to take, because this is about taking the big data store and really creating those experiences that we want our users to have. I want to be able to go to a site, interact with it, and I want that site to change immediately. And that is sort of our vision around this, and we'll be there. As I speak about personalization, there is one challenge I have to touch on, is a challenge of being able to understand our users across devices. And they're coming at us rapidly from all different devices, different geos, different markets, and that's not easy to connect them. Because in half of the use cases, they don't necessarily want to authenticate. They don't necessarily have the time to give you preferences. They don't necessarily have the time to give you data. And this is a challenge for many of us, is to be able to use data that you have within your four walls and use data that you have about the customer outside the four walls to really create patterns about the customer and understand how you can link them and know a little bit more about them so you can personalize that. And either it is stitching data across devices, either it is processing data that you have from outside, Axiom and a few other things that we have been using in the background. Being able to do that, it's not easy. But this is a challenge that we are taking on because it's really, really important. We're seeing our traffic dramatically move to the mobile devices, and it's not, people are using us from a multitude of different devices. We need to know that. There are two very important learnings in this area for me. And it was a use case of looking at big data in a very different way. And I think usually when you think about data, you think about data platforms. You think about structured data and you think about unstructured data. For me, big data was really applying my engineering mindset towards solving this problem. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I've talked to companies who have rushed into solving big data problems, who have brought in a few engineers here and put a couple of data scientists together, and they've just sort of rushed and delivered value. The good news is they have delivered value. But then they go back in a year and they have to almost rewrite some of that stuff. And that's because you can just create so much churn and madness out of nothing if you don't plan this right. And I feel like with big data, that it is absolutely important to take a step back and understand and scale down the use cases you're trying to solve, but actually take the time to build the pipes. Take the time to relay some foundational pieces. Because if you apply the same engineering mindset, it is about manageability, it is about scalability, flexibility, and reliability, and all of that stuff. The reason why it's important to take and build those pieces right is you have a lot going on here. You have a lot of data being processed. You have a lot of jobs running. You have a lot of things getting exported. And if you break that line anywhere in the process, there is no reliability of what you're producing. And in some cases, you've just moved on by just providing insights to really powering real life, real-time experiences. So if you think about sort of the error margin there, it's pretty low. So my advice to many of the folks would have been is to take it as an engineering problem, is to apply that same sort of mindset in this area, because I think it really serves us well. I don't want to go rebuild this thing in a year. I don't. I want it to scale with our business, and that is the most important thing. And this one, I talk about data-driven culture, is really, really hard. It's cliche. We all talk about it. There are business leaders who talk about it. There are CEOs who talk about it, and it's, everybody knows it's the right thing to do. But it's the hardest thing to drive within an organization. And I believe that it starts from the top. It has to start from the top. It is about creating measurable, smart goals that the organization deep down can actually embrace. And they know how to measure whether they're making progress. That is the most important thing that a leader on the top can do, is spend the time to understand and sort of define those goals. And I know it's something we all do and it comes naturally, but it's hard. I think it is hard because sometimes you give people the goals and you don't have the tools to measure them. You don't have the data to measure where you're going, whether you're going north or south in this area. So it's important to actually give them access to the tools and give them access to data. And I'm probably saying something controversial about how much access can we give people in an organization to data. Not enough, not enough. And I'll tell you that either you're in product, engineering, business, everybody should have access to data in a way that's secure, but at the same time, be able to derive insights. That is a weapon that we give them in the arsenal with big data. With big data, you've armed them with data that's powerful, and everybody potentially can draw insights into it. And I know there'll be the focused data scientists working on it, but I believe that everyone needs to be able to get their hands on this. One, it helps decision making. When you talk about data-driven decision making, we have come a long way within StubHub, where our product managers start every day looking at data, looking at drop-offs, looking at where people are landing, and that's how they make decisions around product. So it takes a while to make that shift, because in general, we love hypothesis. Hypothesis is easy, but having data insights fuel creativity is even more better. It's probably more sustainable. It'll result in more success. So that is what I wanted to leave with you. Thank you.